What's up, ladies and gentlemen? My name is Joshua, and welcome to Conversations with Joshua T Berglan. We have an amazing guest today, someone that it does something so interesting that my own brain cannot process it. Mind's Eye creative Ashton Rodenhiser. Yeah?
You got it. You got it.
All right. Yeah. So she does something so interesting. Like every time I look at it, I'm like, I know this is brilliant, but this is so over my head. So, Ashton, before we get into this conversation and getting to know you and what you do, and really, because I mean, I was looking at the reviews, and the reviews, you're like, I mean, the reviews are amazing and life-changing, and I still don't understand it. So, Ashton, before we get into everything, what are you grateful for today and why?
Oh, I am grateful for it's like a perfect weather day. It's like a stereotypical fall autumn day. And I took my dog for a beautiful walk about an hour ago in nature, and it was just beautiful. I love sweater weather. It was awesome. It was awesome. Yeah. So
Wait,
grateful for
where's
the
your
weather
sweater
today.
weather?
What, like temperature wise?
No, where?
Or
Where
where
are you?
am I? So I am in the east coast of Canada,
Oh,
in a province called Nova Scotia, if you know where that is.
I don't know where it is, but I've heard about it.
Usually I just tell people like go to Maine and just like keep going. Like it's on that side. Yeah.
Okay, so now I'm just out of curiosity. What is
Yes.
Nova Scotia like? What is it known for?
It's known for all of like film and television when everything says it's filmed in Maine, but it's not. It's filmed here. So anything so just question when you watch a TV show is like it says it's in Maine. Is it in Maine? It's probably in Nova Scotia. So but it's known for it's a port city, and it's known, well, probably in a sad way, it's known as like the place where Titanic folks came, because it was just off the coast of Nova Scotia and Newfoundland. And so we have like a whole burial site for that. And it's got, like cute little fishing villages with colorful houses. And yeah, it's pretty dope place to be. I love it here. Yeah.
I feel that way about the town I live in.
Yeah.
It's
I love
not known for anything like that. We're just known for defeating the Jesse James gang.
Okay.
But this is about the 30th town I've lived in 10 years. So I would imagine I'm probably moving again, because that's just the way my life works. But I'm okay with that. But I do like this town. It's so simple and different than Los Angeles and Vegas and Florida and everywhere else.
Right.
Okay, so I got to get into this. Mind's Eye Creative. Like, first of all, coolest name for.
Aw, that's
I
nice.
love the name. I say Mind's Eye Creative, and immediately all of these apparel designs and T-shirts and logos and like all of the possibilities flood to my brain.
Right.
Yet I don't know what it is. I just know it's helping people and impacting their life. So
Right.
for the dummies like me out there, can you explain this amazing thing that you're doing that is seeming to impact so many lives?
Yeah, so sometimes I'll say to people, those times when you're in that meeting and it's like super boring? Well, I try to make those meetings a little less boring and bring them to life a bit. So mainly in two spaces, so in person or digital, but it's all real live illustration, but not just like creating random pictures. It's listening to what people are saying, synthesizing and making sense of what they're saying, and then drawing it out in real time. So that when I'm in person, that's literally with like giant markers and gigantic life-size pieces of paper. And then when I'm doing it digitally, it's on a screen, and instead of seeing my face on a little video, you'd see my drawing screen unfold, the drawing would unfold within that. So it's very, very quick, high level sort of overview of what it is that I do and have been doing for 10 years now.
So what is the impact that people should expect from working with you?
Yeah, so kind of depending on the scenario can have a varying different levels of impact. So when I'm in a room where, let's say, there's multiple people and they're trying to get to some sort of goal, right? Like ideally, if you're in a meeting or some sort of session, you are moving towards some sort of, result at the end. And when I'm there capturing multiple voices, I'm allowing them to visualize and see their own ideas unfold as they're saying them, allows them to feel valued and heard, that they're like a contributing member of that conversation. So there's that engagement in this space in real time. Then at the end of that meeting, they've got this like visual of their vision or their goals or their values or whatever it is they're working through. And then post event, now you can use this visual as like an accountability tool to like hang up or print off or use in your marketing or whatever it is that you want to do to help continue that conversation. Because a lot of times what happens is you go to these types of meetings, there's someone like randomly taking notes, it gets turned into like a report with fancy words that nobody ever looks at again. So by creating a visual, and most people think in pictures, most people consider themselves a visual learner or like to or have a preference by learning visually, it speaks to the majority of the people in the room, and also aids in like accessibility efforts or working with people who have like neurodiversity that have like different learning challenges and things like that, can just help add in another element for people to engage and learn in that way.
That, like, okay, it's starting to make a little bit more sense.
Okay.
So it's almost, okay, so it's in a way, it's like you're the human dolly. And because, you could type in words and then it creates an image for you. I mean, that's kind of like what you're doing. You're bringing that to life, and you're right about seeing that visual is because the visuals are almost universal. That's why video is so powerful. And yeah,
Yeah.
obviously word is important, but with people reading less, and I believe reading comprehension has really suffered over the years. We read less books. We mainly read headlines. We're reading Twitter. We're reading social media posts. We're not reading long form books. We're not even watching long form shows like we used to. And so I would imagine like our brains are going to gravitate towards the image much, much more. And you're right, images, I mean, why propaganda is so effective is because those images tell a story. Now, you can assume what that story is all you want. That's the fun of photographs. We don't really know, but they do tell a story. And if you've been in that setting, and correct me if I'm wrong here, but if you're in a setting or a session with you, and you're going through that experience and you've illustrated this image, this symbol, then all of a sudden, every time people see it, they're going to have all the memory of what that session was, and they're going to see it, and it's going to make the vision more clear. Am I getting this right?
You're great. Like you're kind of starting to explain a little, you did it.
Well, because I was so lost. I didn't get it. I'm like, I hope I can have a good conversation with her because I really want to talk to her, but I just don't know anything about this. And I thought I knew everything.
Yeah, it's one
and
of
I'm
those
always
things.
right. I'm just kidding.
It's one of those things from a business perspective. Now, I've been doing this for 10 years and I started building a business, and I have been basically full-time for 7 years. So like I do feed my family on and then some on this business. So, but the challenging part is kind of what you're speaking to is if you haven't experienced it, like it's considered an experienced good, right? So if you haven't experienced the value of this for yourself, like I could show you literally thousands of drawings that I've done in meetings and conferences and things, but it's only going to showcase the aesthetics of what a drawing would look like at the end, But unless you sat in that room and you listened to that conversation, or you were in that meeting, it's not going to be like just looking at an example of my work. It's not going to always translate from like a sales perspective. So even it's interesting because even when people like refer me to others, honestly, most of those times they don't work out because that person wasn't in the room. So I try to give people a taste or allow them to experience what it is that I do, rather than just like sending a proposal, or what have you, or showing them examples of my work. So so it is definitely an interesting business model, and you kind of spoke to that a little bit, which is why I wanted to mention it, because of that. Like, it is hard to wrap your head around what that value is unless you experience it for yourself. So when I get on calls with people and they're like, oh my gosh, I was at a meeting like 10 years ago and I remember there was that person drawing the picture, it makes my job a lot easier, from the business side of things. So yeah, pictures are worth 1,000 words, as cliched as it is, right? But there's a lot of truth to what you said, for
Yeah,
sure.
cliches have an amazing way of speaking truth, though, sometimes.
Yes.
Which makes that makes it uncomfortable, because every time you say something that's a cliche, it's like, it's cliche, but
I know, but there is
it's
truth.
true. So,
Yeah.
I was. This sounds almost like you operate. This is your gifting. Like,
Mm.
this is an expression of your creator given gifts that you were naturally born into, which make it, I typically think that that's when someone has a gift that they're expressing through business or industry or creatives, and they express it and it's misunderstood or not understood. It's typically, to me, that's you're operating in the gift that the creator gave you, and you're operating in your purpose that most people don't understand until they do. And then when they understand it, then they can rally around you. Am I kind of on the right track with what this is for you?
Yeah, like I've always been very creative throughout my whole life, but I didn't actually draw a whole lot until I learned that this was like a thing, that this
Mhm.
existed in the world. I actually got into it as a facilitator. So I really fell in love with group process and how you can ask people questions and allow them to kind of come to their own learning and understanding. So I really, even though there is a very creative side, make it extremely clear to people who want to work with me that yes, it's going to look nice, like it should after doing so many for such a long time, but there is an emphasis on the communication and the learning aspect of it. So if people want to just like hire me to like draw a pretty picture, I'm like, not your person,
Mhm.
right? I need to work with people who really care about the participants in the room, or the people in the in the meeting, or what have you, and how they're engaging and how it helps them feel seen and how it helps them learn, right? So yes to what you're saying from like the creative side of like, that is partly my gift, but I believe that, we have to redefine what art and creativity is, especially when it comes to drawing. And drawing isn't something to necessarily be admired. While that is still has its place in time, drawing can be your best thinking tool. When you put pen to paper and you're hearing something and you do a little doodle, you do a little thing, right? There's like a whole, you know, most people have been in a situation where they've been at a restaurant and drew something on a napkin, right? Like, we use drawings and simple little doodles and images to help us get clarity and gain understanding around something, and try to make something like less complicated, that you can actually understand it or communicate it or what have you. So, I believe everybody could learn this skill, because it's not necessarily rocket science in the sense of really basic drawing elements and using drawing to help you think, rather than focusing on, oh, I have to create a drawing and it has to look pretty. There's that aesthetics aspect to it that is the primary focus, where in this instance, it's not necessarily the primary focus.
Let me ask you this, because I want to stay on the question. I want to rephrase it.
Okay.
Do you feel like there's a bit of channeling's not the word I want to use, but utilizing an intuitive nature in this process? Like, are you having to tap into something divine to guide you in the work that you do? I'm going somewhere with this question.
Yeah, there definitely is an intuitive nature to what it is that I do. And the thing is, I never know what people are going to say,
Nah.
right? So you have to kind of, give in to the unknown like every day. And you have to embrace when someone says something and then they say something else and you're like, oh crap, like I have to connect this somehow. And you just have to like lean in on those like immediate decision making spaces. And yeah, you do have to kind of like let go of the perfection and kind of give into your intuition a little bit for
Mm.
sure. Yeah.
Well, I would imagine so. I relate to that a little bit. Well, I do, and I'm curious, when you first started introducing this to the world as your business and what you were going to do, what was the reaction like in the beginning to what you were trying to do? Did people look at you like you were crazy, or like what is this? Like, what is this voodoo? What is this?
Yeah, it's really interesting. I like I don't even think my parents can describe to people they like know what it is that I do. It keeps me mysterious, I guess, at a point, but I think it kind of goes back to that once you experience it, even if you cannot articulate for yourself what you appreciated about what you saw me do in a room, it spoke to you and it speaks to most people in a room. So I find that like I love winning people over. Like I love that moment where they're like, we're not really sure she's gonna like draw a picture. I have no idea. Or when you're starting and people are like looking at you with their side eyes, like, what the heck is she doing there with that giant piece of paper? And by the end, they're like, oh, I get it. I get it.
Mm,
I see. Oh my gosh, I can't believe you just did that in real time. Like there's like I think luckily in the beginning I didn't let those side eyes or there's like, what the heck is she doing? Like really persuade me at all because I knew from my own experience that once you experience it, that you get it. Like it makes sense. You're like, why aren't all meetings have an illustrator to draw these out? Like it just makes sense once you experience it. And that's a really hard thing to explain in words, right? And that's why you need a picture.
yeah, I get that. I kind of run with what I do. I run into that because I honestly rely on the creator for everything and spirit to guide me. And if I can't work with people I don't have a vision for, but if I have a vision that I'm like, I know for certain that what I'm about to do is going to work for them.
Right.
How do you put that on paper? I've rebranded. I've rebranded myself 900 times.
Right.
I build things and then I'm like, I feel like I'm in a box, and then start over. And then even with services, it's like, okay, well, do I give them away just to show people like this is not
Right.
magic? It's just God, or however you want to, whatever name you want to give the creator. And I don't care, but I also know that I'm dependent on that to do a good job, but I don't know how to put that in sales copy. I just
Right.
sincerely, like, I operate in my gifting. That's how I live my life, and I don't know how to be any different. And but at the same time, how do you put that on paper where you don't sound like a maniac?
Right.
Hey, I can't help you if God doesn't want me to.
Right.
I don't know. But I just, the reason why I was asking those questions, because this
Right.
feels like such a spirit-led, gifted thing that you get to tap into. And I believe that, like, through art and creation, that is where we are closest to the creator, and where we get to feel the joy and the passion of the art form of what we get to express, and whatever that looks like. Because spoken word is an art, painting, sculpting, drawing, all of it's art. Heck, being able to sit still and say nothing is an art form. I have tons of respect for those people. But anyway, I was curious about that because it does feel out of this world, yet at the same time, so simple to wrap your head around once you're kind of immersed in it a little bit. And that's kind of what you've done with me, is help me get immersed in what you're doing. I want to say this too. I think from an education standpoint, there's something really special here, because I know for me, like, I always struggled with learning, at least the way that I was being taught. Memorization didn't happen from what I was being told to do at school. I struggled in that way. But I remember, like, I didn't do well in college. Like, I didn't care about that. But when I got outside and I YouTube with all the educational videos, and now Google offers all of these courses that you can really learn some powerful stuff. But what I'm getting at is Google, the way they do their lectures is you have written form, you have the audio and the video component all at one combined. And the way that their imagery works when they're doing their classes, it's almost like painting that picture. So the association and the ability to remember is far greater. And you're doing something like that in your own way, in your own form. And I really believe it's powerful. Let me ask you this. Are you, because you're working mainly, it seems like, with businesses and individuals, is that correct?
Yeah, organizations, like kind of anywhere between a small nonprofit and a Fortune 500 and everywhere in between, really.
Well, that's a big gap.
It is a huge gap, yeah.
Is there a place for this in the education system? Like, I'm thinking about kids with autism, and ASD is bigger than ever. Like, kids are more mentally unique than ever. We have technology, which has changed everything. Is there a place for what you do in the classroom?
Yeah, so I am kind of on a personal mission to try to get this skill set into students' hands. So the example that I like to give is, imagine you're a teacher and you've got two students and you're looking over both of their shoulders. Now, one of them just has like words, like just pages and pages of words. Okay. The next student beside them is, maybe has less words, but has like little lines and little boxes and little like stick people, right? From a teacher's perspective, if you look over the shoulders of the two of them, which one can you see understanding and learning, right? You can't see understanding and learning in just reams of words, right? Pages and pages of words. But we call it sketchnoting when you do it for yourself, right? So when you're sketchnoting, the student who did the sketchnoting, you can see they've got little containers of information. You can see how they connected the lines between, different parts of their page to kind of bridge the gap between some of them. They've got a little person saying something, right? So you can see their learning, which if you can see their learning, then it opens up opportunity for dialogue, for conversation, for clarification, for enhanced understanding, right? So as a teacher, you can be like, oh, actually, that belongs to here. Or, oh, I love how you did that. Why don't we also just add this extra detail or something like that? So it allows for that extra conversation. So and I've had a decent amount of response from parents and teachers that I've worked with so far around like kids who have ADHD and other like learning disabilities, that it can help them, stay focused. And that's probably one of my favorite benefits of sketchnoting, is like the focusing. right? Because doodling alone can help you remember up to 29% more information, right? That's just doodling. That's just like a little scribble. That's like nothing to do with the information. So if you add in the information into the mix and you make those doodles work for you and make them purposeful, then you just imagine the amount of focus and understanding that you can increase even further, right? So anyways, long answer to your question of yes, I would love for students to learn this skill. Like, I think it should be provided as an option instead of most people have an experience where they were in the classroom as a child and got in trouble for doodling because the narrative that is told is that it is keeping you from staying focused, where it's actually doing the opposite. It is actually helping you stay focused, right? So usually I'll say, if anybody gets in trouble for doodling, you just tell them to call me and I'll set
I I need to introduce you to Jessica, who's building an education app. Jessica's my partner, and I think that what you're doing would fit in perfect to what they're doing for education. So I want to make sure to make that introduction for you because the Girl Scouts or the Gold Award is involved in it. And I think that this could be something that would be really, really work, especially with what this is going to be.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm going to make that introduction. Ashton, this is super interesting to me. And I just think it's great. I don't, and again, I don't even I don't fully grasp all of it yet, but I know enough to know that what you're saying is true and that it's impactful. And it just makes sense from, my own art therapy. Art therapy has probably been more influential and impactful in my life than any other type of therapy or coaching I've done. Art therapy, there's just something about it.
Right.
And so I think this is really, really neat. And I want to give you the opportunity to say any last words. You can take all the time you want, just speak from your heart. And then also make sure that you plug your business, how people can find you, how they can learn more. The floor is yours.
Mm-hmm. No, I really, really appreciate the conversation and the good questions. And I love that you sort of brought intuition into it because I think that has like a huge part of it. And, at the end of the day, it's really about not just translating, but taking information and making it accessible. And that's one of the things that I really love about it. So even in my work, I try to make the graphics even more accessible in the sense of providing like audio descriptions and things, or alt text descriptions, which is really, really important. I'll plug that for people who use, screen readers and things online. So, it's just another way to help make the information that is so important in the world that you're trying to get across more accessible. So, I think it's just something to consider if you're having a meeting or a conference or doing something where you need people to feel extra valued and heard. And, you want to elevate that information so that you can go and actually remember it to like do the good work in the world that were set on this planet to do. So, yeah, I'll just kind of maybe leave it at that a little bit. So yeah, there's sort of two different ways that, online presence that I have, which is mindseyecreative.ca because I'm in Canada. So that's all things like live illustration to hire me for meetings and conferences. And then there's Sketchnote School. So that's my new mission to really take all of the learnings that I've experienced over the last 10 years of doing this for others and trying to get that in the hands of, students, professionals, kind of anybody in between. And sketchnote.school's newsletter, my book's on there. I got an online community and all that good stuff. So it's been really interesting shift for me to kind of go from like hiding behind my illustrations to being more of a face and advocate for this type of work. So yeah, those are kind of the two spaces where you can find me.
Excellent. Well, Ashton, I learned something new today,
I'm so
and I
glad. I'm so
love
glad.
that. I swear I was normally I know going into it, like, oh, okay, I can have a conversation about that. And I don't do prep work, I don't prepare questions. But then when I'm
Right.
like, I don't understand this job. What, oh my, what am I gonna, oh, this is gonna be embarrassing. But I sincerely was interested, and now I'm more interested. Like I said, I'm going to introduce you to Jessica. As soon as this is over, I'm going to email you guys, and so you can get connected. And then also just I'm cheering for you. I'm rooting for you. I believe in my spirit. I don't fully know everything here, but I do feel like this is going to have a real impact. I think technology and this is going to work together really beautifully also. Maybe even like augmented reality, virtual reality work. I don't know, but there's something big that you're on to here, and I am absolutely 100% rooting for you.
Oh, you're so kind. I appreciate that. Thank you so much for the time. It was awesome.
Awesome. Ashton, we'll see you soon. Thank you.
Thanks.
Bye.